I am Dr. Cynthia Fields. Thank you for joining us. And today I'm going to talk about dementia and specifically caregiving for persons living with dementia during the holidays. And I'm a psychiatrist by training, specifically a geriatric psychiatrist, and I am on the faculty at Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine. And I am also the clinical co-director of the Mind at Home Dementia Care Program here at Johns Hopkins. I have no relevant financial disclosures. And so let's look at this picture. So this is Norman Rockwell, Christmas Memories. And you can see here a perfect family, days gone by, and my comment is no. So this does not represent the holidays today, and nor does it represent holidays when someone is caring for a person living with dementia. That's the focus of today's talk. And before I get started, I do want to say that I've put together 10 tips or 10 kind of clinical pearls related to dementia during the holidays. And I took those pearls both from a variety of websites, such as Alzheimer's Association, and then also from my own clinical experience in doing dementia care for a number of years. And at the end of the talk, I have a list of what I think are really helpful websites for reliable information. And so I have here some clips from the show Raising Hope. So me personally, not as a Johns Hopkins University representative, me personally, the show Raising Hope, I think is one of the most, actually the most, in my experience, positive portrayal of living with someone who has dementia and how to care for that person and adapt the environment to that person. And so Cloris Leachman, she played Mama, and she has dementia in this show. And you can see here in one of the episodes, and there's always a happy ending. In one of these episodes, you can see here how the family comes home and Cloris Leachman has taken the Christmas lights and put them all around the tub, and she's eating the desserts and just celebrating. And then here in a more lucid moment, she says, I was hoping the cabinet would transport me to a magical place where none of you existed. And I think that's most of us at some point in time kind of feel that way during the holidays. There's a little bit of overload. And so I have 10 topics for the holidays, and they're not in any particular order. So the first point is to acknowledge grief. And so when thinking about people caring for someone, loving someone who is living with dementia, to acknowledge grief. And so like in that Norman Rockwell picture, today's average, I put that in quotes, right? Average family is vastly different from decades ago, with or without someone living with dementia. And so one of the difficulties is that, in previous holidays, thinking back and remembering previous holidays where the person living with dementia was a lot more vibrant and people made these amazing meals and social media, everybody in their phones, a lot less hectic. And so looking back, and myself included, looking back, 20 years ago, holidays, they just feel amazing and perfect. And that's not today. And looking forward, there's the realization that the person living with dementia, that this might be their last holiday season. And in all likelihood, future holiday seasons will not be as good as this one in terms of that person's cognitive abilities and their functional abilities. And so both looking back and looking forward, there's a lot of grief. And so really it's time to celebrate the holidays, to reframe and celebrate the holidays like a that was then, this is now mindset. And so to celebrate the holidays and make them meaningful and make them joyous in a way that fits life as it is now, living with someone who has dementia. And the second clinical piece is to give yourself permission. So, as I'm talking to my caregivers out there, to give yourself permission to not do everything fabulously. So the holiday stress is enough. And when you add to that caregiving responsibilities, that's just overload. That's stress overload. And, you can't be both a fabulous hostess and a caregiver for someone living with dementia. I mean, if somebody can, wow, wonderful. But to me, that just seems like an impossibility. And so it's important to redefine what's a successful holiday. And so a successful holiday is what someone can reasonably and safely manage, both being a hostess and caring for someone with dementia. And I love this quote here. Make a list of what you think you can accomplish and then cut it in half. That is great advice. So giving yourself permission. I have a couple of, memes that I took from the internet and various things. And true story, a friend of mine gave me napkins that say it's almost time to switch from my regular anxiety to my fancy Christmas anxiety. The third point is to ditch the all or nothing thinking. So that goes with giving yourself permission. So you don't have to do it all or do it the way you always have. It is okay. It is advised. I am advising my caregivers to take shortcuts and to just say no. So some practical suggestions are to curate your decorations with only the most significant ones, because holiday decorating is a big source of stress universally. Or just don't decorate, visit the mall or drive by a lights display. The meal prep is also a big source of stress. So, just have a few of like the most traditional or meaningful dishes. I can think off the top of my head, two sides that are particularly important. And so go with those. Or buy an already prepared turkey. Ask other people to bring the side dishes. But the point is that preparation of an entire meal while also caring for someone with dementia is just too much. And so the next point is to ask others for help and to accept offers of help. That's really challenging for many people. So if someone offers to help, don't say, oh no, I'm okay. Really accept their offer, give them a very specific job, and don't micromanage it. To kind of let go of that and let that person do it. And the holidays are a really great time. If someone has not asked other people for help thus far, the holidays are a great time to do that for the first time. So to ask someone, could you please come and stay with my person for 3 hours while I go to the grocery store or while I do some Christmas shopping? It's a great time to start that process, because this is not caring for someone living with dementia is not a one-person job. And so to ask for some hours of respite, especially if you don't normally do that. And if you receive invitations to go to an event that the person living with dementia just cannot attend, that it just wouldn't be appropriate, wouldn't be helpful, consider going by yourself. Asking someone to stay with the person living with dementia and go yourself. And the sad reality is that at some point in time, it will just be the caregiver. It will just be you. And so when people ask, what for my caregivers, what do you want for the holidays? And by the way, when I say Christmas, I'm just kind of generally talking about the holidays. I don't mean to refer just to Christmas, but to share your wish list. And so maybe the wish list, instead of a physical gift, is some respite time, 2 hours while I go to this meeting or while I take myself to a movie or whatever, but to ask for some specific amount of time at a specific day. Home repairs, changing these lights or these batteries or doing different things. Or maybe for self-care, like what I'd really like is a massage, and if you could stay with my person while I go to get it. That's a great Christmas gift, holiday gift. And so the next point is, as much as you can, to involve the person living with dementia in the holiday prep and in the holiday festivities in general. And this will a bit depend on the stage of the person with dementia, the dementia severity at this time. So here are some suggestions. So like telling stories to connect over memories of the past. So that those past years, those are the most familiar in dementia, not recent years, but past years, even going back to childhood. So telling stories about past holidays is a great way to connect. Looking through family photo albums. especially holiday pictures. You know, my family, we have lots of old Christmas photos or old holiday cards. You know, sometimes people collect and save holiday cards, like from kids and other family members through the years. That's a great activity for someone who has dementia. The person with dementia can help unpack the holiday decorations and possibly even decorate. So I might hear things like, oh, he can't help decorate the tree. You know, he doesn't know what to do with the ornaments. He doesn't know where to put them. He's not steady. Okay, so he could be seated comfortably in a chair. You can hand him some ornaments or a small box of ornaments and say, oh, hand me the one that you think goes on the tree next. And so that's a joint activity. Ask the person to help wrap packages, like to help wrap gifts, or even if they're not gifts, it doesn't matter, but the wrapping, that's the activity, even if it's not actually a gift for someone. If you're baking cookies, give them some dough to shape, regardless of whether you bake that one or regardless of whether you give that to someone else, but it's the activity that matters. Putting on favorite holiday music, like never underestimate the power of music in general, and especially holiday music. For me, it's the Peanuts Christmas soundtrack. Vince Guaraldi is my holiday jam. So put on music. And sometimes people with dementia, although they might have trouble talking, they can still sing, and those lyrics are still in there. So you might get a sing along that you weren't expecting. Start new traditions, like invite a friend over to decorate, put on the music, and in the same way, involve the person with dementia. Have a holiday movie night, like a funny classic, or, well, any kind of classic holiday movie. I like comedies a lot, but an old familiar movie. And you could have the same movie on repeat movie nights if you can tolerate it, because the person with dementia may not remember that you just watched that last week. So that's okay. And I have to put a note, you know, be mindful about safety, candles, lighting, clutter, to keep those things to a minimum. You know, I like memes from the internet, and I'm a cat person. Selfie with the tree before I destroy it. If this were a gray cat, this would be one of mine. So along with adjusting one's own expectations and changing how you do things as a caregiver / hostess, it's really important to adjust others' expectations. And this is probably more challenging. So, you know, as we've already touched on, you know, caregivers often have to adapt their traditional roles, such as hosting the family, because that becomes too challenging. But on the upside, like this is the chance for another family member to kind of take over the torch and to start a new tradition and to create new memories in their space. And it's important to have a group discussion. So I'm thinking, you know, of an older couple, maybe that has several adult children or grandchildren, to have a group discussion in advance about what the holidays are going to look like. And, you know, each year, this is a different discussion because of how dementia progresses and someone's needs change over time. But a group discussion can be really helpful. And it's important to communicate realistic expectations about what you can and cannot do this year as a care partner. And to stress that caregiving duties are keeping you really busy. So this is a good time, as much as someone is comfortable, to put it out there that these are the realities of caregiving day to day, and it is a full-time job. So now if someone's not really been able to communicate that through the year, now is a good time with this extra holiday stress that we all experience. And to let everyone know that you need to choose which events to attend away from home, because that back and forth can be very challenging. And so to communicate honestly about the realities of caregiving, like I mentioned. And so those people will have a better understanding of the caregiver's efforts and maybe offer to help. That would be a real bonus if that were an additional outcome. And that can reduce feelings of isolation or lack of appreciation when everyone else knows. And it's really important to let friends and family members know, you know, what to expect. So to give examples, this can be difficult, but I would argue it's better before the fact. But to give examples of some behaviors that might take place, like maybe the person living with dementia now struggles with incontinence, or they have poor table manners, like reaching for things with hands. That's a classic. Or difficulty using utensils or such, or inappropriate remarks. But to let them know ahead of time, and to tell them very clearly how to best interact with a person who has dementia. And I put, keep the connection. So talking about the past is a good way, and reminding the person, when our mothers used to play together, or some way kind of referring back that keeps that connection. And how they can be of help as well. And to stress that these moments matter far more than the person with dementia's ability to remember them. Because sometimes people might say, well, why bother? They're not going to remember. And that's absolutely not the way to think about it. Because it's really the here and now that counts. And here is an example from the Alzheimer's Association. And I thought that this strategy was really interesting. So how lots of people write that summary from the year, and then they, print it out multiple times or photocopy it and send it in their Christmas card to various people. So you could put the changes in writing in a Christmas card or in an email. And so they give an example. And I just highlighted some of the things that are mentioned, like among the changes that you may notice are this. I've enclosed a photo. So, as people have dementia and the disease progresses, they visibly, they look different over time. And sometimes that can be surprising if someone hasn't seen that person for a year or 2 or 3 years, and that they may not remember you or might confuse you into how to respond, like a warm smile or call when you're almost here. And you could even write a thank you note after to emphasize how meaningful it was, that interaction. This is for my dog lovers. Christmas cookies. No, I haven't seen any Christmas cookies. All right, last 2 tips. So this is a big one, to really plan around the person living with dementia. So to do what will be most comfortable and enjoyable for that person. Please keep the normal routine as much as possible to limit confusion, to limit fatigue, and that overstimulation. Too many different things, too much all at once can result in behavioral changes. Here's a great suggestion: turn a holiday dinner into a holiday lunch to avoid sundowning. Why not? And just to know that groups will probably be overwhelming. So limiting the number of visitors and the time of day are important, and to really set limits. And I love this suggestion that I found on multiple sites, that the person living with dementia could be in a separate kind of side room attached or other area. And then family members and friends can take turns, almost like a tag team, coming in 1 or 2 people at a time to spend quality time and to keep that connection, so that it's not overwhelming and too much to process. Groups are a lot to process for someone living with dementia. And then the last for my caregivers is the importance of prioritizing self-care. And I know that is hard to make happen in this full-time job, but to take at least 10 minutes a day, that's really the minimum, just for a pure mental break. And don't skimp on sleep, especially if you're busy, right? Like the busier we are, we think, oh, we just will sleep less, we'll stay up late, get up earlier, but that's really not healthy. Keeping alcohol and sweets to a minimum, limiting exposure to holiday hot buttons. It's a lot going on in the world, a lot of holiday hot buttons, but to really remove yourself from that, and to focus on the joy and the quality of the interactions as we have them this year. And as much as you can, to stay in the present and not think about that past that's just looking back seems so much better, and not to worry about what the future holds as much as it's possible. And to practice gratitude. That's just generally a good practice. End of the day, to think of 3 things that are positive. You can definitely come up with at least 3. And here a list of the references that I use and what I consider to be some really valuable, reliable sources of information. And then last, when your gingerbread house fails, add dinosaur. I love that. So thank you so much for listening to this talk and looking into my home program. Thank you. Happy holidays.